What's up, everybody? Welcome back to This Deluxe Life TV. My name is T.
And my name is Kareem.
And we are here to talk about Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode
13.
911 and 3/4.
Or in English, 13.
That was English.
That was the long drawn out form.
It wasn't the long drawn out form. That's how it feels. It feels like the long drawn out form.
Yeah.
This season for me has been especially challenging, and I don't think it's because we're recording. Like, I usually am excited to talk about each episode, which is why I thought this would be a wonderful idea. And I'm just like, wow, I feel really bad for these people.
Well, yeah, before I only really would stop in and watch an episode like with you just to sit down.
But you got to hear me talk about it all the time,
Yeah.
and we still talked about it.
Yeah, we would talk about it, but it wasn't like I watched it faithfully. I wouldn't sit through like a whole episode or anything like that. I would just wanting to spend an hour or so. I would sit down, watch, and then ask you a bunch of questions because I didn't know what was going on. So then we decided to, do this where I would actually fully engage. And I could tell you, it's been entertaining, but not always entertaining in a good way.
Right.
It's been,
that's the thing.
Like, it keeps you, the show finds a way to keep you engaged, but it also gives you a lot of filler and a lot of stuff that you don't really need. Like, and I know it's just so they can sell more commercials. It's probably an expensive show to put on. So, yeah. So, but it's been a trip. It's been a journey. We got a few episodes left, and I think we had some intensity on this episode that I'm looking forward to talking about.
Indeed. But before we get into it, I'm going to let Kareem tell you about his own YouTube channel.
So my channel is All the Way Live Media. My content is usually about, all the cool things I find cool from mostly my toy collection lately. But once the weather clears up, you'll start to see me, just going out having fun, maybe doing some locational vlogging. Cars, motorcycles, and stuff like that. I'm a rider, so yeah.
Just don't do the type, how you show me the videos where the people are like actually riding their motorcycles and recording that. Don't do that.
I don't know.
Don't be recording while you're riding.
Well, I mean, if I got like a camera set up.
Don't be recording while you're riding.
Okay.
I want you safe.
That's not hindering my safety.
It is hindering your safety. It's like texting and driving.
No, it's not.
It is. It's a hindrance. It's a hindrance. Tell me in the comments. It's a hindrance.
Yeah.
I don't want it. I don't like it. Mm-mm.
Okay.
So anyway, let's jump into it. I want to do Jasmina and Michael last. Let's start with... No, I don't want to do them last. I don't know. Maybe we'll mix them in the middle. I don't want to start with them, though. What do you think about starting with Katina and Olajuwon?
Yeah, Katina and Olajuwon, we could start with them. That's okay. Cool.
So... essentially this episode, and we told you guys that we're just kind of going to be talking about the major themes, the highlights. We're not going to give you the blow by blow of everything that happened in the episode. More than likely you've already seen it, and there are plenty of other channels that do that. We just kind of want to dig in more depth in terms of like what we think about the major things that happen. So for me, this episode was about them individually meeting with the experts, and then the experts kind of meeting with them as a group at the end. The individual conversations with the experts, to me, I found very superficial, and in some cases a little weird. So superficial in that the experts really seemed very keen on sweeping actual real problems under the rug, or allowing the person, like in Isaac's case, to just like skirt around the issue by being louder than the issue. And I really felt like there was a lot more calling out that needed to have been done so that a real change, a real breakthrough could have been achieved.
So when Olajuwon met with Dr. Pepper, I felt like she tried to call him out. Like she did call him out. However, he blew up, and which was weird because like how you blowing up at the experts, I don't know, but he got put on the defensive, and essentially he was like, you're painting me out to be the bad guy, bro. You did that.
Yeah.
It was like you're right now. She's holding up a mirror and she's saying, "I heard things." I think her wording is off because I'm pretty sure she's seen the footage.
I don't know because in other conversations they were talking about the things that the crew had said to Dr. Pepper, and that's why he even said at the volleyball thing at the end he was talking specifically to the crew, like if you're going to go tell them things that will actually help my marriage. So the whole I heard, I felt like probably was true. But also, what did you see, if anything?
Yeah, because if you're going off of what you heard, then you're not really getting it from firsthand evidence. Like, all you got to do is request the footage. I'm pretty sure you have access to that.
Absolutely.
So request the footage. And you could probably even get the behind-the-scenes footage that don't make it to air. Because at this point, it hasn't really made it to air yet anyway.
Right.
So, coming to somebody and saying, hey, I heard you was doing this and I heard you was doing that. That is going to rub a lot of people, most people, the wrong way. However, the rumors were right. Mm-hmm. So it's not like she's making, like this information is being made up by the crew. Like they're talking behind your back. And also the whole thing about it helping your marriage. Well, yeah, Dr. Pepper coming to you saying that you talk to your wife any old kind of way and you shouldn't be doing that is going to help your marriage. She's just as important in his marriage as you are.
Right. And that's the thing that he doesn't
He does not grasp that. Mm-mm. And it's all about how she needs to prove herself to him. And it's never about how he needs to prove himself to her. And that's abusive. Mm-hmm. That's literally abusive. He's taking advantage of this woman.
He really is.
And mentally. And she's going for it. A lot of people feel like, so she can get a yes on decision day. And
that's what she physically said.
It seems to be the case, and I don't understand why. Like,
even like when they were at the volleyball, location, and he's talking to the group about the confrontation that he had with Dr. Pepper. Basically, he put her in her place because, this is his wife and his marriage and blah, blah, blah. And he said, she says that I belittle you. He's like, do I belittle you, Katina? And she just looked at him like, and he was like, see, that's what I get, a smile, because she thinks this is silly too. And, and I'm like, she is literally sitting there afraid to say what she thinks because she knows it's going to make you go even further off the deep end than you already are.
And it might push you away. And apparently you saying yes is a big deal to her. Because she has said she doesn't like the way he talks to her.
Right.
So it's not like this is a new thing, even for him to hear. And he's just like, do I belittle you? And she doesn't want to talk.
Right.
And that's crazy because you could probably tell from the body language exactly how she feels. But she's just not going to verbalize it because she's afraid.
And I think that goes down to like what we have been talking about before, kind of the breaking down of her emotionally and mentally in this relationship and kind of building her up to mold her into what he wants. And, she seems in many ways to go along with that, even though it harms her, it hurts her. And I feel like she's not speaking up for herself in the ways that matter. Like when she was talking to Jasmina and Michael, a couple episode or so ago, and she was saying, I'm a real person, I have feelings, and these types of things. It's like, these are the things that you need to be saying in front of the experts. These are the things that you need to be saying to Olajuwon. This is not, Katina and Michael, sure, you can say it to them, but like when you sit down with Pastor Cal and he asks you how things are going and you say, oh, everything's fine. Yeah, we had a little hiccup and he got triggered. And, it's like she's kind of like making it seem like she actually did do something wrong, even though she didn't, because she's like, he was triggered. No, darling, he triggered you. You know what I mean? Like, You were the one that were wrong, that was wronged in this situation. But all she seems to be caring about is how he feels, what he thinks, what he's going to do, and not at all how she needs to be loved, how she needs to be respected, how she needs to be treated. And I think that's really, like you said, it's abusive. Yeah, and I really don't even feel like saying I heard blah, blah, blah is calling somebody out. You know what I mean? Like, she could have easily said, no, but you did do these things, or you did say these things, and here's how you need to do different. Right. Yeah, like she didn't. And even when they, like, he's talking like in front of the whole group, and they're watching on the camera.
He's really poking his chest out.
And Cal's like looking at her, and they both decide, okay, it's time, we gonna walk out there. And then what happens? Dr. Pepper gets out there and says, well, I said this thing that, of course, he loves so much, and we disagree. But, the thing is, you guys are comfortable in your marriage and you're happy. And it's like, who was comfortable? Who was happy? What are you talking about?
You fixed nothing.
Nothing.
You served no purpose.
None.
So,
and the thing about it is, they could have easily put them in a situation where the two of them needed to talk to the experts together, because that's what they need. They need the experts probing real questions, not questions that's going to get them to a yes on decision day, questions that's going to get them into a healthy relationship. And they know that this relationship is not healthy, and they need to be probing them in that way, and they need to give them an opportunity to talk together in front of people who are objective parties. Not, even when Pastor Cal met with Katina, and she was talking about how Olajuwon was triggered, and she was saying, he was saying to her, well, maybe you need to ask him about his history and about his past and why that triggers him, because it makes up who he is. And basically, Cal is reinforcing, Katina, you don't matter. What matters is Olajuwon, and what Olajuwon thinks, and what Olajuwon feels, and why this triggers Olajuwon. Not what you need, Katina, not what's healthy for you. None of that matters. All of this went back to what Olajuwon needs, what Olajuwon thinks, what he thinks is good for his marriage and for his wife. Like, he never even called her Katina, not one time. You know what I mean? Like, this is a whole person with a whole existence and a whole name. You know what I mean? And like, she's just sitting there like afraid to say anything about it. And it's mind-boggling how disrespectful the entire situation was to her. And neither she, nor Pastor Cal, nor Dr. Pepper, nor her husband, none of those people stood up for her. I'm like, y'all are wronging this woman to the nth degree.
Yeah.
It's not cool. The other piece of that is when Cal was talking about their intimacy. And she was saying that, she personally had not wanted to be intimate up at that point, because she didn't want to be in a situation where she's so, thinking about how good this is, assuming that it would be, that she's not clear-headed about what she actually thinks or what she actually feels, which I think is a very valid response. Whether you are married legally to this person or not, this is still a stranger to you. And this person has told you that you are a stranger to them and that they do not love you. So regardless of what your loins might be saying, I think it is very wise that she is like, I want to make sure that we have real feelings for each other. And Cal was like, yeah, that's cool when you're dating, but you're married. You know what I mean? Like, once again, just crossing this woman's boundaries. Like, Katina's not a real person. Katina doesn't matter. Yes, all we want is a yes on decision day. So, go ahead. Get tangled up in that. It doesn't matter if you're really thinking, if you're really feeling, if this person actually cares for you or respects you even. That doesn't matter, because, let's get to that yes. It's so uncool. I'm like disgusted by
Me too.
the whole thing. Disgusted. Do you want to move on?
Yeah.
Is that all for them?
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Who do you want to move on to?
We could do Noy and Steve.
Noi and Steve. Do you want to go first? I did a lot of talking with Katina and Olajuwon.
Yeah, Steve kind of essentially the story about Noi and Steve is Steve's income and financial situation, right? So they had the conversation about the finances, and maybe some numbers were discussed, and that's probably why they cut everything out. But going into that conversation, Steve was like, "I've been trying to have this conversation for a while."
And we're both like, when,
I
sir?
was like, bro,
Lies.
like, you gotta tuck your nose back in, Pinocchio, push it back in, because that's a bold-faced lie. Dude was like, I've been trying to have this conversation for a while, which he has not, because she's been flat out asking him, what's the deal with your income and finances? So
And your plan for work.
So they went over some notes in the spreadsheet or whatever he had. He had some digital documents prepared for her where, they had the conversation, and at some point in the conversation she seemed to kind of be amenable to his whole income situation.
I don't know if that's true. So of course it could have been editing, and we didn't get to see all that. Obviously they edited some things out, but it seemed to flow really smoothly into him talking about, but what if I didn't work full time, but I could actually make the same type of money, or do some type of entrepreneurial effort. The whole time they're cutting to her, she's like side-eyeing him the entire time. And and he says, and what about you? You too might be able to take some time off, before we have kids. Speaking of kids, when you want to do that. And then she was like, yeah, well, and it was like,
and that's the thing. Like last week, she didn't even want to talk about moving in with
right,
him.
and they still didn't even go back to that conversation. So,
but now she's like, yeah, well, we can have kids. I'm pretty sure him suggesting having kids wasn't the thing that turned her around. There had to be something in that conversation
I don't know.
There had to be.
I would hope so. I hope so.
Because he didn't say anything.
I know. And I really felt like it was just like one of those sleight of hands, like, shiny ball, look over here. Oh, I'm going to talk about the thing that I know that you like to talk about.
No, it might be passive aggressive, but she doesn't come off to me as stupid.
She doesn't. Definitely not. So. But I'm not saying that she does, but I'm also saying in a short period of time, it's easy to get caught up until that catches back up with you again. You know what I mean? And so, like, even when he was saying, so, kind of like, now we got all this straightened out, and if I have a plan, would that make you comfortable? And she was like, well, it would still take some time, like, then she's like backpedaling, like, you just said you want to have a kid within a year. Now you're saying, it would still take some time. You know what I mean? So that's what makes me think, like, maybe they didn't have as full a conversation as, we hope they would have had. Like, we still don't know. Because even on After Party a week or so ago, which was filmed after, we know After Party is filmed after all of this filming is done, she still didn't even have in her mind like the income amount like she would want him to have in the bank, and like this $40,000 number got,
but on the After Party this week, they kind of did go over. They kind of went over, some numbers that she wanted. He wasn't.
That was talked about in that episode where they asked her directly, and the host had to say, so what if he had $40,000? Would that make you comfortable? And she was like, yeah,
And Steve was like, well, then she's good.
This time. But she wasn't there. He wasn't there. They wasn't having that conversation with each other.
They weren't.
So that's what I'm saying. So even this being filmed after the fact, if she don't even know then if $40,000 is what she needs or what will make her feel comfortable, or does he have that in the bank, then they couldn't have had that full of conversation during filming, because she ain't know what he has in the bank. You see what I'm saying? No?
Yeah, I understand. You good.
So, I don't know. That confused me. I hope that they had some type of full conversation. I hope they did. She seems to really be stuck on, I love him, but, and he seems to want to have her trust him. Hopefully that means that he's doing all of the things that he needs to do to actually earn her trust in that way. One of the things that he said, which just seemed so silly to me, when I think he was talking with Dr. Pepper, and he was saying, the fact that she wants me to work just makes me feel like a machine for her desires. Like, I'm just a vehicle for her to get what she wants, and I'm like, oh, sir,
That was dumbfounding.
Really? I mean, because first of all, you're making her the vehicle for your desires because she's feeling like she's going to have to support you. And so what does that make her? The machine in this scenario. But, of course, this is all on you, Steve. Like you're the machine. Like you're the one that's being used because your spouse wants you to work or have a plan for income.
Like, Steve, what if she didn't want to work?
Right.
What you going to do?
Right. And he even said, during that conversation with her, maybe you want to take some time off before we start having kids and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so y'all going to be eating ramen together? Or can you afford for that to happen? And like, y'all need to have like a real full, like, conversation about this. Like, are you a secret millionaire or are you not? You know what I mean? Because like I said previously, even if you have $100,000 in the bank with no plan of how you're going to replenish that income, then that's still not sufficient because that money has to get spent down at some point. We need that money. You know what I mean? Like, that's not rest on your laurels money. You know what I mean? That ain't no millions. We're talking about $100,000. Some people, make that in a year or two,
But he talked about how he's capable of earning, and he went into a little bit more detail in this episode than he did.
Did he?
Yeah. He talked about his various business ventures.
Which business ventures did he talk about?
He didn't specifically.
Because I'm like, wait.
Let me finish. He spoke about, and maybe that was in the after party, I don't know, but he said, he's made money off of iPhone apps. He's made money off of different.
I didn't hear any of this, and I really didn't watch after party.
Yeah, and I watched maybe like 10 minutes of it. So he said he's made like money off of iPhone apps, off of different business ventures and investments, and of course from working.
Then at the earlier part of the season, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to get into graphic design and I can freelance." And like, where is that in your plan? You know what I mean? Like, even now he's talking out of both sides of his mouth because this still doesn't sound like this is how I'm spending my days. This is how I'm earning income. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing and not doing? I'm still just very confused about it. For instance, like he was talking about, I want to be more creative and do graphic design and develop my skills in that area. Oh, okay. So that means you're going to take some classes. You're going to start freelancing in this area. You're going to do that. And when are you going to do that? But no, we're not going to do that. I'm just going to sit back because I have passive income for this. But you just said you wanted to do that. It's kind of like, what is your plan?
Yeah, what is your plan?
Yeah.
They had a little bit more drama. Like, we kind of skipped over like the whole thing about her making the Instagram post last week.
Yeah, the passive aggressive piece is still persisting.
But then her it's not about you. Come on.
Well, she said it was. She even said that night that he first asked her about it that it wasn't about him.
But that's cat.
I mean, it might be, but it also might not be because the first time when he asked her, she was like, yes. You know what I mean? So if with the first post, if she was like, yes, that's about you, why with the second post would she be like, no, it wasn't?
Why wouldn't it be, especially after they had just had a little blow up about the income or about his situation? They just had that blow up. She gets on Instagram. She makes a post that says, you think you deserve, the moment you start to think you deserve better, you do. What else could that be about? I feel like it's a cap. Even though she was honest the first time, that don't mean she's going to be honest every time. She has already on multiple occasions, including that first post, demonstrated passive aggressive behavior. So she's passive aggressive. We know this, and right now I think she's just lying for. I don't want to say pathological because I don't think she's like destructively lying. I think she's just holding on to the lie, just so she doesn't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing that it was about, or knowing that he was right. Also, they said when she made the post, I don't know if you saw this part. He said that when she made the post, he didn't even see it at first. Like his friends and family were messaging him and calling him, asking him what's wrong with her, something wrong.
I mean, yeah, that's what happens when you post, semi-cryptic things on social media.
And essentially, it always comes off like she's just basically looking for pity. Mm-hmm. Like she wants to say, okay, everything that's wrong, nothing that's wrong is my fault. Mm-hmm. And somebody comes to my rescue, tell me that I need to leave him. Tell me that I need to, I need to do better. That's what she went looking for. And she probably got that from her friends and family. Remember her conversation with her sister last week, and how, of course the sister's going to be on your side. And really most people, when it comes down to this,
would be on her side. Yeah.
So it's not like, you're wrong. However, that is your relationship. That is your husband. And you do not need to bring every little thing to the public. Unfortunately, that's just her. That's her mentality. Like that's the way she thinks. That's where she goes for reassurance, and it's just the fact that she's putting his business out in the street too.
Yeah, that's and I didn't like the fact
with which
that
I have a problem.
Yeah, I didn't like the fact that she talked about it with Pastor Cal and was like, yeah, you're right. And then was just like, well, Pastor Cal is a different person than me. And you're a different person than me. And I'm going to do what I want. I see your point, but, and I respect you, but I'm not going to do what you're asking. And he's like, do you respect me? You're like, do you? And I do understand what he's saying. Because I don't think what she's doing is the right thing to do. And I also think
too much value in that social media response.
And I think oftentimes, though, people who feel trapped or alone do seek, external support that way. And she probably does feel trapped and alone in the situation, not being able to get the reassurance that she needs from him about their stability, which we know is a big need for her. But I going back to what I don't like about that action is, remember when they met with, I think, Dr. Viviana, the two of them, and it was after she walked out the first time and posted on social media or whatever, and she sat there talking about how she never wanted to make him feel like that again, like
tears in her eyes.
Right, because this was just after he had told her that he loved her, and she's like, oh, okay, we're in love now, I don't want him to feel this way. But when going gets tough, you still don't have a plan for the finances, all of those kinds of things. It's kiss my ass and I'm going to post on Instagram when I want to. Suck it.
So as much as she wants to be the victim, she also has
she got some villain tendencies.
Mess with her, yeah. And she really got to, reel that in, because honestly, I feel like their situation is, for lack of a better word, toxic on both levels.
It is.
Both parties neither one of them are
they're
really
not
doing
ready
the right
for this.
things. Yeah.
And they're not ready for this.
Because he's got it's something wrong. It's something up with him for him to just be like, hey, it's not a big deal that I work or don't work. Who needs to, you know what I'm saying?
And
he's
maybe
so casual.
It isn't, but
he's so casual about the concept of him not needing to work, because assuming he's got, money in the bank and he won't impact her financially, but you're not willing to have that conversation with her because you don't want to, you don't pretty much don't want to gratify her and give her the satisfaction of security, which is the opposite of what you want to do with your significant other.
And I think it's more than that. I think it's also that he doesn't want to be held accountable to the plan that he then says that he's going to enact. He's very comfortable with, chilling during the day, taking his naps and, cooking a couple meals. But if I say I'm about to go do this class and I'll never do the class, now I'm accountable to the fact that I didn't do the class.
Yeah, but
you know what I
think,
mean?
I think with this whole, that's definitely part of it, because he does seem to be a bit lazy in that regard, and that's definitely part of it. I'm not saying that it's not, but I do think that is a little bit more at play. I think he's just kind of saying no for the sake of saying no.
Well, like I said, I think it's both.
Yeah.
I didn't discount what you're saying. I think it's both of those things.
Okay.
So, so moving on from them, we have Mark and Lindsay.
Mark and Lindsay. They do not like each other.
They do not.
And especially
Mark.
Mark fights Lindsay every step of the way. It was like I'm pretty sure Lindsay wakes up in the morning. Good morning, Mark. You gotta yell? I'm right here. I'm 20 feet away, Lindsay. 20 feet away. You all gotta yell at me. Good morning. All right. Good morning. All right.
So
Cool. That was a great Mark impression.
It was a wonderful Mark impression, but it aggravates me. I don't like Mark, so.
You don't like Mark? You don't like Sharky Mark?
No. I lost it all for him. I lost it all. So here's why I don't like Mark. Mark has quite a bit of internal struggle that he needs to work on, which most of us do. Be blessed, go work on that. But what I don't like about it is he keeps playing this game with Lindsay that he either doesn't realize that he's playing or is sadistically playing. I'm hoping it's the former, that he doesn't realize that he's playing. And the game that he's playing is, I care for you, I want to protect you, but we just need blah, 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 healthy communication, whatever it is, to make this go.
Because I don't really see...
But hold on. But the piece that he's not saying is, and also too, I don't actually like you. Because you can care for someone and not want to be with them, not actually like them. And he doesn't. He recoils from her at every opportunity. And this is even when things are going good, he still don't want to hold her hand. He still don't want to reach out to her. They're having this emotional conversation in the apartment. She had to hug him, and he just stayed like this. He didn't reach out to hug her back or nothing. She's crying in the volleyball. Jasmina had to get up and go get the woman a tissue from right next to Mark. Mark sat there like this, looking at her. Lindsay's leaning over and kind of leaning her hand towards her with tears in her eyes. And he's just he doesn't like her, period.
Yeah, it's hard to even say that he cares for her, really. I'm pretty sure he probably cares for her as much as a human being would care for another. And that's about it. He essentially cares for her as far as he don't want, but he cares for her enough not to throw her. Because, he don't want her to get hit by a bus. He don't want nothing to happen to her. And he realized that she has it rough, so he has some empathy for her. But he doesn't like her at all. And you need to let that woman know that this ain't going to be it. And Pastor Kyle essentially helped him figure out why he doesn't like her.
Well, one of the reasons why.
One of the reasons why is because essentially she reminds him of his mother. And
when he's with her, feels like his father might have felt.
So essentially his mother was probably domineering and argumentative towards his father.
In his point of view.
And he felt like his father essentially, he witnessed it. So it's kind of
But that's just like us, witnessing something from the outside.
But it's not really from the outside if you in the home witnessing it.
But it is, because you're not a part of every private conversation. You don't know if the father was doing something that he shouldn't have been doing. You don't know all of the things. People live with their parents all the time, and as soon as they leave the house or go to college or whatever, their parents get divorced. They're I'm sick of this.
But also domineering. But when someone is domineering like that, they don't just dominate their spouse. They are the same way with all other relatives within the home. So
that's not necessarily true.
So he witnessed it, and to him, it's real. So I'll give you that. So to him, he saw his father kind of back down from his mom, didn't fight his mom back, and Mark is afraid of being his father, and with a woman who he believes is like his mother.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, Lindsay. I think Lindsay's biggest problem. Number one, she's a mean drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
although we haven't seen her drinking much lately, which is a good thing.
I mean, she had a couple glasses in this episode.
When?
She had like a little glass on.
When? Because like they literally were meeting with the experts and then went to go.
But I mean that doesn't mean she's an alcoholic, drinks all the time. That just means when she gets drunk, she's mean. No, so those are two different things. But Lindsay's a mean drunk, and when Lindsay's not drunk, she's just one of those people who doesn't think before she speaks anyway. But when she's drunk, the whole lid comes off and everything spills out, and it's anger.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's anger and nastiness. So Lindsay is a lot to deal with, and I get it. I don't think Lindsay is trying to be domineering. Sober Lindsay is not domineering towards Mark. I haven't seen that. Maybe you have. I haven't seen sober Lindsay, essentially argue with Mark for no reason. I haven't seen her pick fights. I've seen her actually go out of her way to support him. He hasn't really shown her the same regard.
No, not at all.
And, he's probably going out of his way to not support her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first couple of episodes, she got into the thing with Olajuwon, and that was like pretty much the drama of the first two episodes was between her and Olajuwon, and then it became her and Katina, and so on and so forth for like an episode or two after that. But now they seem to be cool, which I think is actually dope. Like they got over it. People say Olajuwon, or it's been said that Olajuwon and Lindsay are like tight now, and I'm pretty sure that was a relationship that developed while shooting. You know what I'm saying? Which I think is dope. Like we can get over things. So Lindsay definitely, we criticize Lindsay enough to say that Lindsay's got some mess with her, but I don't think she's been in any way like sober Lindsay has been in any way abusive to Mark.
I don't think so either. And one of the things that, like in her one-on-one with Dr. Pepper, she talked about how she seems to be like in a perpetual state of sadness, and that she has a hard time differentiating between anger and sadness, and that for the most part it's sadness, but the way she expresses sadness is with anger because she doesn't know how to deal with sadness. Like she's sad all the time, and so it's easier to blow up. At least you blow up and like you let it out. You know what I mean? But like if you're just sad, the only blow up in sadness is like crying. You know what I mean? And like that doesn't feel like you got your stuff off. You know what I mean? And so she doesn't know how to deal with sadness or anger in a healthy way. And I don't, even though Dr. Pepper is not like a mental health therapist, I definitely feel like she should have been prepared to give that woman some strategies to deal with that, other than, try to deal with Mark from a place of empathy and, reach for the sadness more. You know what I mean? Because if that's what you're telling her, just reach for the sadness more, this woman could have the potential to fall into just a deep depression. And you know what I mean? And that could be terrible for her too, and obviously we are not therapists at all. I definitely do think that if Lindsay is not already talking to someone, then she should, because she's been through a lot, She's talked about what she's been through with her mother. She's been through some bad relationships, those types of things. She should talk to somebody to work through that so that she can feel not sad all of the time. Like who deserves to feel that way? Like absolutely nobody. But I also feel like the way Mark responds to her is also not healthy.
Yeah, he doesn't treat her with gentle hands.
No.
And he doesn't. He probably prioritizes himself in the relationship, and I think when you have you're in a relationship, particularly a marriage, it's y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not you and her, it's y'all. It's both of y'all together. And if your partner has a problem, then you have a problem. Y'all need to fix it. And Mark doesn't do that. Lindsay tries with Mark, at least in the physical sense. And Lindsay was even asking him, "Are you okay, Mark? Are you okay?" Right before they had the little hug thing, she was like, "Are you okay?" I don't hear Mark say anything like that. Like he has no tenderness towards her, and it does make you think. I mean, pardon me. It is more evidence of the fact that he just don't like her. He doesn't really care for her. Like I said, he cared for her as far as he could throw her.
Yeah.
So.
So let's move on to Jasmina and Michael.
Jasmina and Michael.
So with these two, I'll go back to what I said last week in terms of there being a sliver of hope for them. I also feel like that sliver is less of a sliver now.
Why now?
I'm really feeling that Jasmina is just not into him. Like, just not at all.
Well, he's a bit corny, and I think that's probably it.
I mean, I love you and you corny. Come on, baby.
Yeah, sure. Okay. But he a bit, but I think that kind of is the big deal with them. Like she's not into him and she's not interested. She has said that the door is still open.
And I honestly think two things are true. I think the first thing that's true is she's trying to be optimistic and give this a real chance. I mean, she did choose to get married to a stranger at first sight. And so she knew that there was a potential that she would not have a physical attraction for this person, even though she had an opportunity, they all did, to state, the type of people that they're physically attracted to. Why they keep matching with people with types other than their type, I don't know. Because like you actually want this to work, right? Like, why do you do this? But so even though she did get to state like what her type is, Michael was like this much of her type, you know what I mean? And not this much of her type. And Michael's not an ugly dude by any sense. He's fit, all those kinds of things. And he seems like a genuinely nice guy. And so I think that she's saying that the door is still open because she actually does want to give this a chance. The other thing that is true is that she's just not into it. You know what I mean? Like, even when she talks about, like, I'm not closed off to him, extending an arm to me or touching me or whatever, but just when he does, I don't feel anything, and, Dr. Pepper's like, but just say yet, because that says so final. Ma'am, this woman has said that to his face, to y'all's face, to everybody's face, at least 10 times each. It is final. I feel like that's how she feels. You know what I mean? Like, and like, even like hearing her after they're getting along so well and all that, and like, even
and they get along really well.
Yeah, and even hearing like what they said last week, everything. Last week I was like, there's a sliver, but this week I feel like that sliver got smaller, because I'm still hearing her talk about her non-attraction for him in the same way. And I think when she's talking to him about it, the chemistry can grow and like all those things. I think she's trying to be as tactful and respectful as she possibly can be so that he doesn't feel like he's iced out and there's no chance, because she too wants there to be a chance. I just don't actually think there is one. So, but we didn't talk about Michael at all. Like, we talked about kind of from Jasmina's perspective. So like, I think with Michael, like the conversations that he had with Pastor Cal was like kind of telling him, I think Pastor Cal gave him some really bad advice, which really sounded very creepy to me. And all the experts do this, and they kind of like try to force people on each other. He was asking, like, is there any kind of physical, intimacy between them, any kind, a touch, anything. And Michael said no. He was like, what would she do if you just like reached out and held her hand or whatever he asked? And he's like, I honestly don't know, And Michael was talking about how he and Jasmina had a conversation where Jasmina expressed that even like their good night kiss, that she felt like, well, I'm his wife. I'm obligated to do this. And he, being the gentleman that he is and wanting to put her at ease, said, you don't need to do anything out of obligation. So don't do that. Wait till you feel it or whatever it is. And Pastor Cal was like, not to
interrupt you, but just to interject, he said that, in the beginning, he too was doing things because he felt like it was what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, but not the physical part though.
But just the tasks and stuff that he was taking on. But then, as time went on, he had realized that he had started doing those things because he wanted to do them.
Right.
And I think Pastor Cal was pretty much saying, just like you are now doing things because you want to do them, she will start doing things because you want.
Which I think is creepy, wrong advice.
And that's taking away her. First of all, it's taking away her agency, and she shouldn't feel obligated to be affectionate with him. And he's encouraging Michael to essentially take advantage of her politeness,
right?
Like as if that's his right. You know what I'm saying? And
but no, that's your right to her husband. No, it ain't. No, it ain't.
You should kiss her, and and that's not going to secretly. That probably might make her resent you more. She realizes at some point, why am I doing this? I'm only doing this because it feels like it's what I'm supposed to be doing. That might actually make somebody resent you more.
And oftentimes in relationships, people fall into bad habits that turn into long-standing habits that they don't know how to break. And so if she's just like kissing him out of obligation, every kiss turns into obligation. You're kind of cutting off the potential for it to become real because you've conditioned yourself, just like Pavlov's dogs with the bell. Kiss, obligation, you know what I mean? And it becomes this habit that's hard to break. Whereas, like Michael did, the gentlemanly thing to do, say, let's not do that. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I don't want you to feel obligated. Like when you kiss me for real. You know what I mean? So that it's like when kiss, ding, love, you know what I mean? Like that's how it should be, not obligation. That's not how, and even the thing that Pastor Gal took out of the conversation about Michael doing things that he then became more excited about doing was the fact that his emotions for her grew, not because he was doing the things, but because their communication got better. And so his emotions for her grew. It wasn't, I was doing this thing out of habit, and then it just got to where it was just so enjoyable to do. No, I was doing this thing out of habit. We wasn't getting along, so therefore I was going through the motions. When we started getting along, then I started liking doing this thing. Yeah. So, yeah, I really felt like that was kind of creepy. I've said that before. I did not like that, and I don't like how they're constantly like pushing people together. I did appreciate, on the other hand, the same conversation that Jasmina and Dr. Pepper had about physical touch and intimacy. So if it's not objectionable to you to hold a hand, to put your arm around each other, those types of things, then why don't you try that and see how it feels? I recognize that when things weren't going well, you weren't really feeling nothing. Things are going better now, but y'all not even touching each other now. You know what I mean? So how do you know if you don't feel anything because you haven't touched? You know what I mean? Why don't you hold a hand? Why don't you put an arm around each other? Why don't you, if you feel comfortable, have a kiss goodnight and see what that feels like to you now? Don't close the door on that just because it hadn't felt like anything in the past. Y'all wasn't getting along in the past. Like, let's see. And I felt like that was better advice, and she seemed to be open to that. But like, to your point about her agency, it puts the ball like more squarely in her court, and also gives them room, like they did have a conversation about what would be comfortable to them and what wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So that's our episode, y'all. Get in the comments. Let us know what you think about any of these things or anything that we didn't cover. There was a lot. It felt like there was a lot in this episode, even though it was just kind of like some couple, like the chunks with the experts and them getting together. But let us know what you think about our thoughts, what individual thoughts that you might have. We love hearing from you. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our page, and also hit the notification bell so you get first notice when we put out additional videos. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Peace out.